WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. You know, there's an irony or a paradox or something, I don't know exactly what word describes it best, but I guess we've all maybe noticed this at one point in our lives or another. I'll share one with you as a way to introduce our next guest. It was a vacation I took with my son when he was little. We had this planned vacation to drive out to the Grand Canyon. And, you know, sitting and planning it, we had the road map out and whatever else we were using. And here's where we'll start. Here's where we'll stop the first night. And here's where we'll stay. And here's what we'll eat. And here's what we're going to do. And we had it all planned out, right? Mm-hmm. Then the car broke down. Then it rained so hard that we were sleeping in a tent. It rained so hard we might as well have just jumped in a lake. There was not a single dry thread of any clothing or fabric at all. Mm-hmm. And then there was the time we were in the mountains. We got a little bit queasy because of the winding road. It's like, oh boy. And then of course there was the horse flies that were biting us. And you get the picture. What I'm trying to tell you is that this perfect planned vacation turned out to be even more perfect. Mm-hmm. Not less than perfect, but more perfect, because at the end of it all, when we look back at the photographs and in our own memories, you know what we saw? We saw the best time we ever had. Better than it would have ever been if it had been the perfect planned trip. It's an irony, right? A paradox, isn't it? There's a movie coming out, and we watched the trailer to it, and gosh, sometimes I don't know if I get the story of a movie just from a trailer, and so maybe I got this wrong, but it looked like it was speaking to that very phenomenon or paradox that I was just trying to describe with my trip to the Grand Canyon. Francis X. Flaherty Jr. says, call him Chip, it says on my notes here. Yes. He is the executive vice president and publisher of Walden Media. I believe Chip's been with us before with the Winn-Dixie movie.
Yes, because of
Winn-Dixie. Chip oversees the efforts and initiatives of the Walden Pond Press imprint, and he's on the phone right now to promote and talk to us about a new movie coming out. Does it start today? It starts today. It's called The Giver, and let's see, I'm not good with film stars, but I recognized Meryl Streep. Mm-hmm. I did not recognize Jeff Bridges, but I know who he is, and then when you told me who he was, I said, oh wow, that's him. And other actors and actresses as well. I'm just not good with that. But I love what this movie sounds like it's about. Good morning, Chip. How are you?
Larry and Robin, thanks for having me on again. I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Where are you right now?
I'm in, as your listeners will soon suffer through. You can tell I'm Boston born and bred with my accent, and I'm up in Boston right now.
Oh, excellent! We love that, by the way. I actually am very fond of different accents. We live in the melting pot of the melting pot.
Yes.
So tell me about this story. Did it start out? It's called The Giver. Did it start out as a book?
Yeah, it started out as a book, Larry, and it came out in 1993 and immediately became a sensation in high schools and in junior highs around the country. It won the Newbery Honor, which is the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a book, and it's gone on to sell 11 million copies.
Wow.
And it's on so many state reading lists, and as I've traveled the country, once the film was done and promoting the film, which, as you said, opens today nationwide. It's on 3,000 screens, which is a gigantic release. I mean, that's what you do on like a Spider-Man type movie. So you can't go to the movie theater this weekend and not be able to see The Giver. It's everywhere. But as I travel around the country talking about The Giver, so many people come up to me and they're like, this was the one book that connected with me when I was in high school or in junior high, and I read it. And it still stayed with me. So, and granted, that's kind of a younger crowd. That's like the 30 and younger crowd because, the book didn't come out till 1994. But it's so profound, and exactly like that analogy you opened the segment with the Grand Canyon trip. It's so profound in terms of the issues and the paradoxical thing it raises when how much is too much? Can a government go too far to protect its citizens that you trade so much freedom for safety that you're no longer free and you're really no longer safe? So it's incredibly entertaining with a star-studded cast, but it also raises big questions as well.
You know, we have a friend, we've never met her, but she's like a pen pal friend, I guess, in Germany. And she grew up and lived most of her life in East Germany until the wall came down. And I'm not about to tell you that life in East Germany was pristine, perfect, and therefore it was imperfect, which is the paradox you're talking about. But it sounds like that's what they were trying. That's what the Eastern Germany government was trying to do, was to create this perfect world, and protect everybody from this hideous Western thinking, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and that's why Meryl Streep, who plays the chief elder and the person who runs the government, she gives a typical, unbelievable Meryl Streep nuanced performance, because eventually you realize that someone's got to take a stand, and it's the young man Jonas who's being mentored by Jeff Bridges, who is the giver, and they have to make a stand and topple this government and fight for freedom. But Meryl Streep's performance is so great because she wants to protect people, she wants to help people, and that's why she is hanging on to this government with an iron fist. So your point is really well taken, Larry, because it's hard to know when you cross that point. And I remember I was at a service once, and the pastor had a great point. He was like, look, all parents, when they first see their kids walk and the kid falls down, they're like, oh, I don't want my kid to bang his head against the coffee table or whatever. And the natural reaction would be to pick up your kid and carry him or her around for the rest of their lives so they never get hurt. But 10 years later, your kid still doesn't know how to walk. His muscles have all atrophied and everything else. So you're really not doing him any favors at all. You're actually hurting his development. And I always remembered that service, because I'm like, wow, you can go so far to protect someone that you really end up hurting them.
It's an interesting kind of an experiment through literature of something that sounds really true. Do you know a bigger example than my little Grand Canyon story is like the Depression era people or the World War II era people, because they lived through these long periods of time when things were less than perfect by far, and yet if you listen to them talk about those periods, it's almost like it was the best time ever. And the music, by the way, that came out of those eras is like phenomenal. So there is something weird about that whole idea of imperfection somehow making things perfect.
No, I mean, and that's why this movie is so great, because like I said, it's a star-studded cast. I always say that it's like Transformers meets The Twilight Zone, because it's a big old summer blockbuster with a great cast, but it's like those old Twilight Zone television shows, because they really make you think.
Right.
After the 2 hours, after the 2 hours of fun at the movie theater, and it's a great movie for the whole family to go to and everything else. But then, like the Twilight Zone, you have stuff to talk about on the way home or at the dinner table in the days and weeks to come, because it really raises those big, profound questions, which are great to kick around with kids and with teenagers and even with your spouse, because it really gives you that common reference point to kind of open up discussions, which I think is what all great film and all great literature and all great art should do.
That's awesome. By the way, I love Meryl Streep, and I hate seeing somebody I love being bad in a movie. But she is so good at being bad, isn't she? I mean, right? And I know and in this case, she's being bad at trying to be good. It's kind of weird. It's even her role is paradoxical. Chip, we have to take a little break just for the weather. I'm sorry to do this to you, but we have to. And but I'm looking forward to the second part of this. We'll be right back. We're talking about a movie that starts today. The movie is called The Giver, and Chip Flaherty is on the phone, and we'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, sunshine mixing with clouds. A couple of drenching thunderstorms around this afternoon. The high 86 to 90. There'll be a thunderstorm in the area this evening, then partly cloudy overnight, low 72 to 76. For tomorrow, times of clouds and sun with a couple of afternoon and evening thunderstorms around, high 88 to 92. For Sunday, partly sunny with a stray afternoon thunderstorm, high 90 to 94. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Are you tired of not using your home's outdoor space for entertaining or relaxation because of all the bugs and leaves? Consider adding a beautiful screen room or glass enclosure. We are Superior Aluminum and Design, a family-owned and operated business with 20 years experience in the aluminum industry, and we are accredited by the Better Business Bureau. If you appreciate superior workmanship, call Superior Aluminum and Design at 817-8058 or visit us on the web at superiораluminumdesign.com.
This is James Snyder inviting you to join me each Sunday morning at 9:30 for Sunday Joy, right here on WOCA 1370.
Hi, I'm Leah Caruso with Strive Rehabilitation, inviting you to join me Thursday at 11 a.m. for Health Matters. Ocala Health and Strive have teamed up to bring you the latest information on good health services available to you right here at home. This vital information will help you make informed decisions about your health. So don't forget to join me here at 11 a.m. Thursday. It's news you can use from Ocala Health, Strive, and your friends here at WOCA.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
We should eat our larger meals earlier in the day so we have energy, and eat our smallest meal at night so the body can focus on sleeping. Successful relationships aren't supposed to be perfect. They require vulnerability. Telling yourself that a guy isn't good enough, our expert says you're really just giving yourself an excuse to stop trying. Couples should send 2 texts a day that provoke interest, like, I want to tell you about this cool vacation idea I had.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Fredericks Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Fredericks Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Fredericks Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Fredericks Appliance.
Hello? Can you hear me? Because if you can, then so can your customers. Radio works. Call today to advertise your business right here on WOCA 1370, The Source.
WOCA, News Talk 1370. Good talk, great conversation.
Thank you. 12 minutes before 11 o'clock, let's return to Francis X. Flaherty Jr., who prefers to be called Chip, and he's on the phone. He's promoting the film The Giver, which starts today, and it stars Jeff Bridges, Meryl Streep, Brenton Thwaites, Alexander Skarsgård, Odeya Rush, Katie Holmes, and Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
see, I know a few of the newer names, Robin. I know a few of the newer names. And if you get a chance, go online and look at the trailer, which we used to call the coming attraction. Remember that?
Yes.
The word trailer used to throw me. Now it's common. But anyway, this is an awesome looking movie, and from our conversation with Chip, it sounds like it is exactly what the trailer made me think it was, about some young people realizing that there's perfection out there, and it doesn't look like perfection. Which I don't know if that makes sense or not. I guess you have to see the film to understand. Chip, did I ruin that, or was that all right? What did that sound like to you?
Oh no, it's a great, succinct, and insightful analysis, Larry. And here's another thing: it's not a spoiler. You know, you haven't given away what happens either, but you've teased it great. So you're exactly right. And the other thing I love about it too is it really it reminds individuals, be they, tweens or teens or, even as we get older, that, we really can make a difference. As Jeff Bridges mentors young Jonas, who's played by Brenton Thwaites, who's going to be a huge star. He's a heartthrob. He's a great looking guy. He played Prince Charming in Maleficent with Angelina Jolie, which came out this summer, and he does an awesome role with this film. But as Jeff Bridges mentors him, he gives great lessons for all of us. He's like, look, be curious, don't take people's words for things, have faith, have hope, believe that you can make a difference in this world, very affirming things that it's always great.
I love that. Yeah,
to go to a movie and be reminded of the fact, that we're all individuals, but we all can make such a huge difference on a global scale. I mean, we can make a difference in our families, in our communities, or in this case, young man Jonas, took on a corrupt government and succeeded. So, That's my favorite thing about film, whether it's like the Rocky Balboa movies and the underdog takes on the heavyweight champion of the world and things like that. I love those movies that inspire us and call us to be better than we are right now.
Yeah.
But the giver character, the adult character, is very complex in himself, because a lot of people, when we get to be adults, we have these fears and things, and we're afraid to rock the boat, so to speak. And that's why the younger people are so important, not just in films but in life itself, because they sort of don't have the complexity of the fear, and they're able to move forward to help others where adults might hold back.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, Robin. And it's funny because you think sometimes of, the baggage that we bring from our lives, and sometimes you have to, like the Bible says, sometimes you have to have the faith of a child and open yourself up to all the possibilities that we had back when we were a little kid. When we wake up and we think anything is possible. Now sometimes we wake up and we worry about having to interview a guy from Boston named Chip and trying to understand his Boston accent. Or, we try to we try to think of what the day is going to bring, and we don't bring that zeal and that love of life that kids do. So you're exactly right. It's so Jeff Bridges is revitalized as he starts to see the energy and the innocence and the zeal of young Jonas, and he reminds himself of what he can accomplish too.
The book, by the way, The Giver, is written by, is it Lois Lowry?
Exactly right. Lois Lowry.
So if you wanted to read it before you go to the movies tonight, you have to be a speed reader. But you can get it, I guess. Do you know there's an irony too in actual government, and that is this, and we've seen it with the tobacco industry. There will be legislation creating something making something against the law in order to make life better for everybody. And then what ends up happening, like in Prohibition days, for example, it actually made things worse. But this whole anti-tobacco campaign is not legislation. There's no law that says you can't smoke cigarettes. But there's this big campaign saying, maybe you better not. And it's working slowly but surely. And that seems to be making more of a difference. And I think what the movie looks like it's doing with the government in the movie anyway is that they... And I haven't seen the movie, so the trailer has me really curious about the murder that's not murder. So that part I don't know. But it sounds like there's a government that had good intent, but obviously is failing at its core.
No, you're exactly right, and I think it's so important, and you guys do it so well on your radio show every day. But listeners or a movie audience, it really is a show, don't tell type of experience that works best. I mean, you tell people what to think, you tell people certain things, and even in the short run, if they agree with you, in the long run, it's not a hard-earned, a firmly held belief, and it's just going to fade. But if you allow people through experience and free will to come to those conclusions themselves, so that knowledge becomes wisdom, that's when it sinks in, and that's when it becomes part of a community and part of a culture. And I think that's another great thing that this movie reminds us of, that one of the greatest gifts we have is free will, and we should never let anyone take that away from us.
You and Walden Media really go into the hearts of families, because you've had films like The Chronicles of Narnia, Charlotte's Web, and there's always a spiritual element involved also.
Yeah, I mean there really is. I mean I'm a good old Irish guy in Boston, and I was taught by the nuns who always taught me that God writes straight with crooked lines. So even and Larry alluded to this earlier, even when a bad thing happens, sometimes it's a platform or an opportunity to come out of it stronger and to learn something. And I think when you have that kind of worldview and that faith-filled worldview, you realize that nothing that is broken can ever not be fixed, or nothing that is so lost that it can't be found. And I think Walden gravitates to those inspirational stories of redemption and healing, because number one, it's kind of how we see the world, but number two, I think it's really what audiences want to see, to be inspired and realize that there is hope and that there is a chance to make things better.
Yeah, I love what you just said there. Humans, create things with straight lines. We have these geometric shapes. Everything is straight. God does never use a straight line. Even the horizon isn't straight. Nothing is straight. There's some perfect spheres. That's about it.
Yes.
Everything else is jagged, as you say. Do you know, I wanted to mention something. Robert Schuller one time told a story. I can't remember if it was on our show or if I read it or heard it somewhere else, but he told a story about a chick in an egg that is ready to come out of that egg. If you help it, if you help crack that egg, make it easier for the chick, it'll die. It'll come out of the egg and it'll die. It'll die because the neck muscles will not have been developed to the point where it can now peck at the ground and feed itself. The very process of pecking through the shell in order to get out of the shell is how the neck muscles are developed, and therefore it gives it the strength to eat once it's out of the eggshell. And it's the same theory of making a child work instead of just giving him everything he wants. And it's the same theory for a government to allow people to fail rather than always having an entitlement to make sure that nobody ever fails. And I don't know if that's what the movie is trying to say, but to me, imperfection is the path to perfection.
No, Larry, you're exactly right. And you and Robin touched on this so well earlier. I love that saying that, you know, a parent should prepare the child for the path and not the path for the child. Because,
right.
You know,
I like that.
And it goes right back to the giver, because the government tries to take care of the path and take care of everything, but it's impossible to do that. So rather than trying to play God, because there is only one God, then why don't you just prepare the individual for all of the challenges that he or she will be presented with in life? Because that's really all you can do. And I think, and it's been such a great talk today, and I think that really shows how deep this movie is. It touches on so many things that, as a parent, you can point back to your children after you see that and have that common reference point to say, hey, remember that movie we saw? You know, and reminded of that. And kids today who are so visual, they learn so visually. You know, when they're baby Einstein and they're doing that, or with video games now, and even with the way a lot of teachers are teaching them, you know, to have that experience and to be able to point back to your kids about the giver and talk about it. I really think I like to think it's a gift, and you guys know we've done over 40 films, but this is only the second time I've been on your show, because I really believe this might be the best movie that we've ever done.
Wow. And you know, in the Winn-Dixie movie, by the way, the sudden appearance of Dave Matthews was awesome. Any cameos like that in this movie?
Well, I mean, not a cameo per se, because she plays a very pivotal role in the film, but Taylor Swift is another great musician who plays a big pivotal role in the film, in which all
and Dave Matthews wasn't really a cameo either, so I shouldn't have said it that way. But it was cool to see him. So, wow! And does she sing in the film?
Well, no. She plays the piano and she sings a bit. She doesn't sing long enough that it could be a download for your iPod. But, and I won't give it away, but she does play the piano with Jeff Bridges, and she is just delightful. During the shoot that was in South Africa, you think the biggest pop star on the planet, you think that she'd have a lot of attitude, but no, she came down, she autographed guitars for everyone on the cast and gave them away. She did not go to her hotel room after the shoot. She hung out with everyone and talked to them. She was just a delight. Just a delightful person.
Well, I think that describes you too, Chip. You've been a delight today as in the past, and I can't wait to see the movie. It's called The Giver. For those of you who just tuned in, you got to check it out. It's a new film called The Giver. And again, the stars, the names you'll recognize: Jeff Bridges, Meryl Streep, Brenton Thwaites, Alexander Skarsgård, am I saying that right? Odeya Rush, Katie Holmes, and Taylor Swift. The movie starts today. It's called The Giver. 3,000 theaters across the country. Chip, good luck with that. And thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with us.
Oh, Larry and Robin, it was my pleasure and my treat. Thank you so much for speaking with me again, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. We'll let you know what we think of the movie after we see it. We'll send you a text or something. Yeah. I don't know. Perfect. All right. Thank you. We've got to move forward. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.